Hello and welcome to CB Talk, the Combined Transport Blackwell monthly podcast. Today is April 25th, 2025, and I'm your host, Nick Card, Vice President of Operations. We have a great interview coming up with Jared Colley, our orientation director. We're going to talk a little bit about the safety committee, orientation, and the experience of landing a winter steelhead. But first, the news. Our drivers and employee of the month: Wayne Rayborg in Glass and Flatbed, Monica Berrigan in Blackwell, Wes Johnson in Heavy Haul, and our corporate employee of the month, Tyler Myers. Tyler is actually the editor of the podcast, so I don't know if perhaps there's going to be some little pa-doo sound effect that Tyler will edit into this, but congratulations, Tyler, and congratulations to the drivers. Thank you so much for the work that you do for the company and your dedication to our mission. Our safety topic of the month, April, is all about vehicle inspections with a focus on proper pre-trip and post-trip inspections. Inspections are a critical piece of safety, making sure that the truck is safe to go down the road. It's also a critical piece of managing hours and time. If you know what's going on with your truck, then you can make a plan to fix it. If you don't know what's going on with your truck, well, then the truck will make that plan for you, and you're going to be stuck on the side of the road. It'll cost you hours, it'll cost you time, and ain't nobody got time for that. In the news this month, there's been a crackdown in Oregon way station bypasses. Counties and cities and states are conducting joint enforcement efforts to ensure that local local way stations are not being bypassed. Drivers are getting cited, as well as a free roadside education course. So if you don't want to sit at the roadside being lectured by a police officer about way station bypass, don't be bypassing those way stations. Officials say that this has been a persistent issue, and they are going to continue with these joint enforcement efforts. And now to our interview. I'm here in the studio today with Jared Colley. Jared is our orientation instructor. You've been doing that for 3 years.
Yep,
You're also involved with some safety compliance stuff. I know your background, 14 years as a CDL holder, and you were telling me earlier you were hauling liquid oxygen as your first CDL gig. Is that?
Yeah, that was my first CDL job.
So I guess you do know a thing or two about safety and compliance, I guess,
Yeah,
doing something like that.
Just a little bit.
Well, Jared, great to have you on the program.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here.
So I want to start with something, talk about, I know your primary role is in orientation, but you'd also been doing a lot more with safety and compliance. I know you're on the safety committee.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about, what is the safety committee? What do you guys do? Why does that matter to the average employee or driver of Combined?
So the safety committee, we meet once a month, and not only do we deal with the safety of the drivers, but we deal with a lot of the background safety issues that are within the company, like stuff at the yard. We conduct walkthroughs, and we will bring OSHA out so they can walk through and make sure that our yard is safe. We also do a lot with like CSA scores, talk about how we can bring those down. We talk about our learning management system, Infinity, which we can go over a little bit more when we talk about orientation.
Okay. So really, what I hear you saying with the safety committee is it's really as simple as we're here to make sure that this is a safe place to work, and because your safety committee, it's not just like you, right? It's a broad swath of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have people from every division. We have we have claims in there. Our HR department is part of it as well. Jason is part of it as well. He is our safety manager.
Sure.
He's more than just a safety manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Jason. Thinking about safety, obviously your primary role is in orientation, and so one of the things that I would think you would have to be really involved in from an orientation perspective is how do we get people to come into our safety culture and be a part of that rather than contributing to an unsafe work environment? Does that play a role in how you approach orientation and how we train drivers?
So we have what we call our pre-employment day. So that's when the drivers first come in, they come in, they do a drug test. We also have an outside medical staff come in, and they do what's called the work capacity. And so we make sure that not only are they drug free, but that they're healthy enough to be able to carry out our tasks safely. Then from there, we give them a drive test and we do backing tests. And I know me, when what I'm looking for more in a driver out on a road test, because most of our drivers are experienced drivers. They know how to drive. I'm not here to teach them how to drive. I am here to make sure that they can safely operate the vehicle and the equipment that we give them.
So that's good, because obviously we don't want drivers that have bad driving habits, but I'm sure we all could be safer, right? I mean, what do we do during our orientation to help sort of promote that safety as we get these new guys coming in?
So during the week, I teach a lot about our policies, which there's a lot of safety topics in there. I teach about maintenance and how to keep your trucks in excellent repair, because that's a huge safety issue as well. I certify everyone on how to be able to check their slack adjusters and how to adjust their brakes if need be, even though that they're all automatic slack adjusters.
Well, you can't always count on the automatic stuff. I mean, that's it's a good point though. Maintenance is a safety thing. I mean, because if your truck isn't mechanically sound, you could have a serious issue out over the road, and that could really hurt. I mean, especially with your 14 years of driving truck, like that's you've seen that firsthand, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yep. I've been in my fair share of experiences.
Well, as you're talking about all these different things that we're doing in orientation, it occurs to me that orientation must have changed quite a bit over the last 3. I mean, I just think about all the new rules and regulations that have come in place. I mean, the changes during and since COVID. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how orientation has changed as you've seen it over the last 3 years or so as you've been doing this?
Yeah, it's changed a lot over the years. From all of our policy changes, DOT regulation changes, even how we do orientation, because we have a lot of experience in our orientation. We have multiple divisions in our orientation at one time. So I mean, we have refrigerated drivers, we have flatbed drivers, we have drivers in our tactical division, which would be our step deck and our RGN, all the way up to multi-axle drivers. So each orientation is going to be different. If I have more reefer drivers in my orientation, then my orientation is going to be geared towards that. Or if we have students in that are brand new to the industry, I'm going to be going more in depth in certain policies and certain safety topics that they should know that they don't learn in school. Now, if it's a heavy haul driver, a lot of it is, they're running under permits most of the time. They're 30-minute breaks. They're exempt from that. So it constantly changes.
Yeah. It's a challenge, because we do have to we're having orientation basically every week.
We are.
But the exact makeup of those drivers, their experience, their background, that's changing dramatically week to week.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite stories from orientation?
Some of my favorite, it's not necessarily one of my favorite times in orientation, but one thing that I do really like about it is seeing a driver come through my class and then being able to see them as they grow with the company over years. We've had students that have came in and they're down on their luck. They were looking for a whole change in life, and just the demeanor they came in orientation, coming into a brand new industry and seeing how far they have progressed over the last couple of years with our company it's amazing. Just even the looks on their face and how they act and how they carry themselves is a whole lot different now, and I really like that.
As you're talking about that, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the company is, creating opportunity for people if they want to eventually end up in heavy haul or multi-axle and, really big trucking. I mean, that's something that they can do with us. But sometimes I lose sight of the fact that it all does start with orientation too. Like that's that's the first step that every driver goes through is they've got to survive your orientation class. And hopefully it's not that bad. It's the Jared's jungle game show of orientation. But no, I mean, get through orientation. It's a bunch of policies and procedures. It's a bunch of basic things. But that is that first sort of step of creating a better professional driver, which is sort of all of what we're doing from a career perspective for these guys. And so I think that's a really interesting reflection on that.
And, with my many years of being in this industry, not only I've been a driver, I've worked my way up to management and even being a director with an LTL company. I have been through many orientations and I have conducted many orientations. And one thing that I really try to do with my orientation is make people feel comfortable. I could have an orientation class where I just go through the steps and everything and say, all right, good luck out there. I am the first person that they really see and they connect with in the company. And I try to make it my job to make them comfortable and have them look forward to working for us. And that's how I do my orientation.
Sure. No, that's great. Do you see a difference? I mean, obviously there's a lot of different personalities out there with drivers. Do you see sort of a generational difference for drivers?
I do see a difference in that, especially with the industry gearing more towards apps. And, we don't run on paper anymore. That's a thing of the past. We don't call in all of our paperwork and save all of it in manila envelopes and send them out or, turn them in. We have certain apps that we turn in paperwork with. We run the Motive app for our driver logs. And one thing that I see is that the older generation has a tougher time kind of dealing with that stuff when the younger generation, they grew up with all these apps and all the new technology, so they're used to that.
Does that create a challenge in terms of creating an environment to train everyone together? Or is that, do you think that's sort of a deeper challenge, or is that just you got to help the guys get a little bit more modern that may not be familiar with it?
Yeah, it goes class by class. Sometimes I have some the younger generation. They'll come in and they'll help out the older guys, the more experienced guys, and this kind of stuff. If I don't have any of the younger kids in there, then I'm having to spend more time with the drivers on the apps. Definitely having to take notes and write down all their usernames and passwords, because there's about 10 different usernames and passwords, and then I try to teach them how to use the password save on their phones. And then they're calling me up every other week asking me how they get back into it.
Yeah, trying to remember all the access.
Yeah, sometimes I even have issues with it.
You're not a spring chicken anymore, Jared.
No.
You're complaining about your lack of glasses earlier today when we were setting up, and I'm afraid age happens to all of us. So
yeah, it does.
Sort of on that topic, one of the things that I've seen in orientation classes is the experience of the older generation in terms of trucking. Sure, they may not know all the newfangled technology, but they do have a lot of experience over the road that they can pass down to that sort of younger generation. What is that dynamic like for you in orientation? Does that mean you're now competing with a bunch of other people who are trying to teach the class better than you, or how does that go?
Well, orientation, it's a place for everybody to learn. And even though I've been in the industry for quite a while, At 14 years, I'm still pretty new in the industry when it comes to some of these guys out there that have been driving 20, 30 years. I even learn a lot in orientation as well.
Yeah.
You know what they say is, as soon as you know everything, you might as well just give up your CDL. So it's always changing. And I like that. I like that about the class. When they do have downtime, they're always helping each other. They're talking about, their experiences and what they've had to go through. And, we get some like pretty young kids in, about 25 or so. But I'd say most of our drivers are, within the, 30 to, mid 40 range.
Of the new hires coming in.
Yeah, the new hires coming in. Okay. And they already do have a little bit of experience. Okay, you'll see some of our refrigerated drivers come in, and they're really wanting to get up into, the step deck and the RGN, starting getting up into heavy haul. So you'll see those certain drivers that are real go-getters in that, the younger kids, and they'll kind of attach themselves to some of the older guys in the class, and they're always picking their brain.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Speaking of sort of that generational knowledge transfer, I mean, how can current drivers help with orientation?
Current drivers help out a lot. They come in, they talk to the other drivers, they give them their experience and what they've seen with the company. The newer drivers, they look at me, not only am I the orientation instructor, but I'm the guy that gets paid to talk good about the company. So hearing it from a driver who's been with us for years, it really implants that into their brain that we are a family oriented company, and that we care about our drivers out there over the road and what it's like to be out over the road for us. Another great tool that I always tell the drivers to use is we have a private group called Team Combined Drivers. And I always tell them, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can post that question on that private group, and you will have people with years and years of experience that will answer your questions. And you don't have to be sitting right there next to them to talk for you to get that.
That's a great resource.
Yeah,
for sure.
It is.
Speaking of current drivers, pretty much all of them have gone through some version of our modern orientation. And I remember when I was teaching our orientation class, one of the rules that I always said was about 2/3 of what you tell these guys is just going to go in one ear and go right back out the other. So much information that they've got to learn. For those guys leaving orientation, for the guys that are currently on the road, what would you say like are the, 1, 3, you pick your number, most important things that they need to remember from orientation, they should take away from orientation, that they should, just make sure that they're living as they are out over the road?
So yeah, there's a lot of important things that they should take out there, but like you were saying, they're not going to remember everything. We throw a lot of information out there. One of the most important things that I would say that they take away from orientation is how to communicate with our company, how to communicate with your fleet managers, how to communicate with payroll, how to communicate with with our billing staff, because that's very important, turn in loads. We don't expect you to know 100% of everything as soon as you get into a truck. We don't want to set the drivers up for failure, so I really encourage the drivers to reach out. And if you don't know, don't act like you know. Just ask. And once you get the experience and you've been with our company for a little bit, it all just kind of comes secondhand.
Any last thoughts on orientation that we want to bring up?
If you're thinking about coming to work for our company and you're listening to our podcasts on YouTube, I look forward to having you. And we can make this a really great experience.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, I do have one question for you. I know that you are quite the fisherman. I always like to end on something a little bit more personal. Winter steelhead, is that correct? Is that your go-to
Yeah.
Is it your favorite? I don't know.
I'm more of a fly fisherman.
Okay.
I love the little streams and going and hiking around rivers. But something about winter steelhead, it's very challenging. They call it the fish of 1,000 casts.
Definitely casting 1,000 times to get one of those.
Within a day. Yeah. And just something about it. Something, it's usually raining outside. It's cold. The rivers are higher. Everything is going against you, and their bite is so soft, and sometimes you can't tell if it's a bite or if you're snagged. And as soon as you see your bobber go down and you set that hook, all hell breaks loose, and from there it's just hang on and try to bank it, and then once it's in, it's all that suck that's going on outside, and it doesn't matter anymore.
That's great.
And you got this 10 to 15 pound fish in your hands. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a proud dad. You've got your 6-year-old daughter. Have you taken her out fishing yet? I'm sure you must have.
I do. She's a little bit young to be going on the rivers, but we'll go to the lakes.
Okay.
She's had a few on, but hasn't banked one yet.
Okay.
But that'll all change this summer.
Yep. I was going to say, it'll be a good year for that, I think.
Yep. It was just her birthday earlier this week, and she asked me for a new fishing rod, and so of course I had to go out and let her pick out her new fishing rod.
That makes for a proud dad.
Oh yeah.
Well, Jared, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate the time. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Not really that I can think of now, but thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Right.
Thank you, Jared, so much for the interview. Our next episode will be out on May 23rd. We're going to be interviewing Randy Spurlock, current flatbed trainer, as well as former driver for the company. Randy is coming up on his retirement, and so we're going to get to talk to Randy a little bit before he retires about his time with the company, his perspective on the industry. I think it'll be a really interesting episode. If you have any questions for Randy, please send them to us via Facebook or email them to us at cbtalk@combinedtransport.com. We appreciate your participation. It's your engagement that makes this podcast work. Thanks for your time, thanks for listening, and thank you for being a part of Team Combined.